Recording in progress.
Call this meeting to order. This is the December 20th, 22 council meeting, the last council meeting of the year. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. And we have a fairly busy agenda this evening, so we'd like to get started, get right into it. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interests by the council members this evening? Thank you. So we'll move right into the minutes of the previous meeting. Moved by Councillor Podemit, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the minutes of the Town of Minto Council, December 6th, 2022, regular council meeting be approved. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. The next resolution is moving into council into Committee of Adjustment. So moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Town of Minto Council convenes into the Committee of Adjustment. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is MV 2022-15, the LeMay 164-166 Webb Street, Hairston. I'd like to call this public meeting to order, and I'll state any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. The public hearing is to consider minor variance application MV 2022-15 Broderick Dale LeMay. So I'll ask Clerk McRobb to Secretary Treasurer McRobb to state the location of this property.
Thank you, Chair Turton. The property is subject to the proposed minor variance application. It's legally described as Part Lot 8 and Part Lot 7, Southwest Side Webb Street, Plan Town of Hairston, Part 2, Plan 61R21269, Town of Minto, and is municipally known as 164 to 166 Webb Street, Hairston, in the Town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 0.19 acres or 0.08 hectares. The purpose and effect of this minor variance application is to provide relief from Section 12.2.2.5 of the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 01-86 as amended to permit for a reduced front yard setback for a semi-detached dwelling. Section 12.2.2.5 requires a minimum front yard setback of 6 meters or 19.7 feet, whereas 4.6 meters, 15.09 feet is existing. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the subject property on December 9th, 2022. Reports have been received from the Town of Minto as well from Wellington County. We have no registered speakers at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Annaline. So the next step here is we'll ask Ashley, the Town of Minto's planning coordinator, to provide comments. So I'm going to, before we start, when we have speakers, I'd like to use the mic because this meeting tonight is being taped. Ashley has a mic in front of her, so she can stay at that table, but others to the mic at the podium. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So this property is located in an established residential neighborhood. It's what we'd call a residential infill lot, and currently it does have one semi-detached dwelling on it that is under construction. The property was previously severed from 160 Webb Street in 2017, and at that point in time, the owner/developer also rezoned the property to R2 to pre-zone the lands for future residential uses. As of 2022, the current owner/builder purchased the property and applied for a building permit to construct one semi-detached dwelling. All documents submitted indicated that the required zoning provisions were proposed to be met. However, to apply to sever the semi-detached into two separate lots with distinct and separate ownership so that they can be sold separately, a survey sketch is required to be completed by an Ontario land surveyor. That survey sketch indicated that the semi-detached is constructed with a 4.6 meter or 15.09 foot setback from the front yard line, whereas 6 meters or approximately 20 feet is required. So as mentioned, Wellington County did submit comments. They had no concerns, as well as Maitland Valley Conservation Authority had no concerns, and Source Water Protection did screen it out. As the committee is aware from the town's perspective, we generally are not supportive of a reduced front yard setback for residential developments. If the developer had approached the town prior to construction commencing, we are of the opinion that front yard setback would not have been supported. The current minimum, roughly 20 feet, narrowly provides adequate driveway parking space, and with a reduction, it increases the likelihood of vehicles parked in the driveway overhanging onto town-owned property, and as a result, puts liability onto the town for damage of those vehicles, primarily during the winter season and with snow removal. To mitigate this liability, the town's requesting that should this minor variance be approved, a development agreement be required and included as a condition. This would take the liability off of the town, and it would be that legally registered on title on both halves of the semi so that any future homeowners would also be aware of this risk. The subject property does appear to also provide the minimum one required parking space with the 3 meter by 6 meter dimensions. However, town staff are recommending that this minor variance, if approved, include this as a condition as well, that the space remain unobstructed. We are also asking for a revised grading and drainage plan, as the one submitted indicated a 6 meter setback, and that's not as constructed. Stop work order in order to comply are currently in place on the property, and they can't be lifted until all applicable law under the Ontario Building Code is met, which includes the town zoning bylaw. So should the decision be approved, staff are strongly recommending that the conditions mentioned be included. We do want to be abundantly clear, as mentioned, that minor variances are not precedent setting, and that in the future, staff will continue to not support reduced front yard setbacks. Over the course of the past 20 years, this is the second time that staff have had to deal with the same issue, unfortunately, both within the last 3 months. So as a result, we will be amending our building bylaw, which will be brought before council later tonight, so this doesn't occur again in the future. And the owner is here to speak to it as well. We also are satisfied that the 4 tests of the minor variance are satisfied as outlined in the report there.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. So we'll ask the owner applicant to provide a few comments. Brody? Yeah, welcome, Brody. So comments, everything that Ashley said is, you understand the situation? You understand where we're going and what we're trying to do?
Yeah, it's all understood. Moving forward, lesson learned.
So you're saying you don't have any issues with the 3 items? No. Okay. All right. So, okay, so just before you sit down, I'm going to ask if there's any persons wishing to speak to the applications to come forward or against this application. Would you step to the mic and speak and state your name, please?
My name's Carl Hoffman. I live next door to the building. My only real problem is their furnace vent is blowing directly into my kitchen window. If he would have been back where he was supposed to, it wouldn't. If he's willing to turn it so that it doesn't blow into my window, I have no other problem.
Okay. So can we make that a 4th part of this?
So-
Sorry?
Through you, Chair Turton, I can certainly add that to the decision as a part of a condition, that the furnace exhaust vent be directed away from the adjacent dwelling,
Okay.
if that's council's call.
Any problem with that, Brody?
No, that's simple enough.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we've had your response. All right, so what I'll do here is ask Secretary Treasurer McRob to provide the resolution. So,
Through you, Chair Turton, are there questions being provided by the committee?
okay. So, any other questions for this particular issue? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Anderson?
So does this building have the same issue with the steps in the basement or in the garage, or there's enough space for a vehicle to clear? It sounded like that in the report.
So yes, this one has more room than the previous semi that we dealt with. The only thing is the floor elevation from the garage slab to the main floor elevation is higher than the previous one. So Brody will need to provide a landing. There is still sufficient room for the landing and stairs as long as the stairs go along the back wall of the garage and not towards the front. So that's why we're putting that condition in. And there is sufficient room to head them that way, so it's not an issue. But we still want that as a condition.
Councillor Potovitz.
Mr. Mayor, sure. Now, I wonder, could we hear from the owner how we arrived at this situation? Like, did you get a surveyor out? How did you determine where the foundation was to go?
Yeah, Wilson Ford Surveying up Mount Forest was hired to do it and stake out the foundation for construction. As far as I knew, it was in the right spot until recently when this was brought to my attention.
They actually put survey bars or some kind of reference points in for them?
Yes, I had them come out and put in the stakes before the foundation went in.
So you're saying the surveyor didn't put stakes in the right place? Or,
I'm still trying to figure that out with him. He was trying to work on what went wrong. I know it wasn't him personally that was there doing it. It was one of his employees. So he's investigating it. I don't have any answers to that right now.
thank you.
Other questions for Brody or Ashley? Okay. All right, thank you. So I'm going to recommend that that we look at the application approval, and I'll ask Secretary Treasurer McRobb to read that.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that a resolution being carried or defeated, the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of the decision. I will read the decision that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approved the application by Broderick Dale LeMay for property legally described as Part Lot 8 and Part Lot 7 Southwest Side, Webb Street, Plan, Town of Harriston, Part 2, Plan 61R21269, Town of Minto, municipally known as 164-166 Webb Street, Harriston, in the Town of Minto, to provide relief from Section 12.2.2.5 of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 01-86 as amended, to permit for a reduced front yard setback of 4.6 meters or 15.9 feet for a semi-detached dwelling, and further that the following conditions are met. 1, a development agreement is entered into with the Town of Minto to allow for temporary parking of a personal motor vehicle in the driveway which may encroach within the road allowance. It must be to the satisfaction of the town and will be registered on title. 2, a revised grading and drainage plan is provided to the satisfaction of the town. 3, the garage parking space shall be a minimum of 3 meters wide times 6 meters in length, unobstructed. And 4, that the furnace exhaust vent be directed away from the adjacent dwellings. I will require a mover and a seconder through you.
So can we have a mover and a seconder for that, please?
I'd move.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Gunson seconding that. So if we pass this motion this evening, when does the stop work come off, Terry?
So the stop work order could be lifted after those 4 conditions have been addressed, as well as the appeal period for the minor variance be completed. So typically it's 20 days from the day of mailing, which actually gets them out usually the following day. So it'd be 20 days from tomorrow, the order could be lifted.
You understand that, Brody? You're okay with that? And the 4 items? Okay. All right. If there's no further questions, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of this motion? Against? You want to be noted?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's carried. So anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto, 5941 Highway 89, Hairston, NOG 1ZO, or by emailing annaleen@town.minto.on.ca. I'm going to officially adjourn this public meeting. And we're going to move along. Brody, if you want to, you can stay. You're welcome to stay. Or you can give up your seat.
Nobody ever takes them up on that.
All right, so moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Council Dirksen, that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment convene into Committee of a Whole. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. So we have no public meetings, but we do have 2 delegations, and I'm going to set the ground rules. Helmut Seebach, concern on the drain. Helmut's got his family here tonight, and you've got 10 minutes at the mic. And so what we're going to do is, this is for information for the council and our staff. And after you're finished, there'll be no debate. We'll just have a discussion amongst ourselves after your delegation is complete. Okay with that? So you state your name and
that went into my father-in-law's farm. That's approximately 3 years ago. It was completed. He's been complaining about wet spot in his field ever since then. The main drain did need to be done. The first original one was too shallow. Unfortunately, this has made the field wetter, but it looks like there is a connection that's not been made when the procedure is done. He's been in contact with the Drainage Department and I believe also Marquette Drainage. We haven't been able to get much done from that. They were out this fall, checked some tiles and said that his tile is plugged, and usually a tile does not plug up on its own unless it is not connected to the main drain. So we've decided that we've sent a letter to Township here, and we'd like to get kind of the bottom of this. We propose, we actually have procured Martin Drainage to come fix the area that is given grief. Unfortunately, that part of that drain has not been paid for yet. Obviously, we'd like to pay our bills. The problem is, if it is a problem from the new drain that was put in, we'd like that be taken care of by Township. If it's not, obviously, we will look after the cost ourselves, but it's unfortunately, the field is wetter now than it was before. So, yeah, with that, that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Chris. You've got a couple minutes left. Is there anybody else want to speak in reference to this?
We have some maps prior to the drain from Google Maps. You can see perfectly here in these maps that the cornfield that they were in, searching for the main drain to start. The field was perfect. There was a beautiful crop of corn. And years after, we have pictures of where this wet area is that is not getting any better, so. Anyways, we'd just like to have time, they are supposed to fix this problem in the spring, and we want, just want council to know that what's going on. Thank you.
Chris, did you say it's Martin?
Martin Farm Drainage, yes, are coming early spring to fix the problem.
Okay. So we have your letter. We'll take this and we'll discuss it. And we'll get back to.
Through you, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
If I heard the delegation correctly, they are stating that if the field is dug up and it's found to be a connection that's been missed, definitely the town will take that up with the contractor who did the work. If it's found not to be a problem with the drain, then those expenses would be incurred by the landowner.
Fair enough.
That's fair. That's fair. But this is what we've been trying to accomplish for
Years.
years. It's been years,
Okay.
okay? And nobody has done anything or heard us, and that's why we finally came here. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I think you're doing the right thing. So you're
We're very
here.
proud farmers, and for us to see that there is no crop there after the drain was put in, it's very discouraging. And the fact we haven't been able to get to the bottom of it is, you know, it almost makes you want to cry as an agronomist myself, that there is no crop there. And I think this is the 4th year now that there is no crop in that area.
Okay. So we understand exactly what we're doing here.
Through you, Mayor Turton, based on what's been discussed today, definitely staff can work with the landowners and investigate the field and figure out why it is wetter than it was before.
All right. Is that fair? Okay, well, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you want to stay, that's fine. If you don't want to stay, that's fine as well. All right. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
So we should state what's in this engineer report. Sorry,
So-
one more thing.
Yeah, can you just step up to the mic? I'm sorry I didn't ask you a few minutes ago, but
That's okay. I would rather not speak into the mic, so. There is an engineer's report that also states that after the municipal drain was put in, within 1 year, it is the obligation of the township or of the contractor to reconnect the tiles. It's right in this report, and it was obviously not done. And like my dad said, 20 phone calls and text messages, and we have gotten absolutely nowhere. So something's gotta go, so.
okay, so we'll use that document the day we meet. Okay,
I'm sure that you will have a copy of this.
Okay.
Right?
all right,
Yes.
I'm assuming that the township has a copy of
Yes,
this?
we do.
Okay, perfect.
all right.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you guys.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave.
So our second delegation this evening is the folks from North Star and our store, pardon me. And we have Shivani and Jason. And if you guys don't mind stepping up to the mic, maybe you can give us a quick history on your building out there, and then we'll talk about the new developments.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor, Council, and staff. It's always a pleasure to come. We don't get to come too often as a delegation. It's usually when there's something new happening or hoping to be happened. My name is Jason Rayo. I head up development for Enter Store. And someone else picked the company name. I'm not sure how they picked a name that doesn't pronounce like a regular word. So apologies for that. We're proud to be here. This project that exists for us here in the industrial park in Harrison was the first project for our company. It kind of got our company going, and it's still running today. It's our longest running project, and it's still providing useful services to the Ontario grid, balancing out, smoothing out the power on the grid for Ontario. My colleague Shivani is going to walk through some presentation slides that have been previously provided to give some background on how we've been doing, what we are hoping to try to do next year in 2023 with the site. And we'll be happy to take some questions after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for having us here. As Jason mentioned, my name is Shivani. I'm the Director of Development and Partnerships with NRStore. I know we only have 10 minutes, so I know you've seen the slides already, so I'll go through them relatively quickly, and we'll have lots of time for questions hopefully as well. So just a bit of background on NRStore. NRStore, we are an energy storage project developer, owner, and operator. So what that means is we basically build, own, and operate, develop energy storage facilities, energy storage. I think on the next slide, I'll have a little bit more about that, but essentially we're a pretty small company. We've been around since 2010. And as Jason mentioned, kind of got our start with our first project here in Minto. Really excited to sort of build upon the success of that. We have a few different business units. We focus on everything from large grid scale energy storage, providing services to the overall grid. We work in partnership with communities and remote places, getting off of diesel, building out microgrids with renewables and energy storage. And we also do distributed energy storage. So basically batteries in people's homes to provide backup power resilience, and additionally aggregating those together to provide grid services as well. We'll go to the next slide. So energy storage is basically what it sounds like, storing electricity when it's not needed, and then putting it back onto the electricity grid when it is needed. So the reason that's important is as in Ontario and across the world, really, we shift towards lower carbon energy systems, being able to balance all of these new renewable energy resources and even optimizing the existing resources we have on the grid. Energy storage, as our CEO Annette likes to say, it's like bacon. It kind of goes with everything and really helps optimize the efficiency of the overall grid. Yes, thank you. So the Minto project, it's a flywheel energy storage facility. And so we built this facility. It's been operating since 2014. And so it's been operating for over 5 years. And basically it's big metal cylinders like you can see in the right photo there, which spin and store energy kinetically. So energy is taken off of the grid and the flywheels are spinning. And then when you want that energy back onto the grid, it provides the energy back onto the grid. And so this facility specifically provides what's called frequency regulation service. So very quick sort of ups and downs. When the system operator, the Ontario grid, needs us to go up and down just to balance sort of frequency on the grid, we're constantly doing that sort of 24/7 all of the time. And we've actually done a lot of, now that it's been operating for a long time, we have a lot of operating data showing that the operations of this facility have been actually much more useful for the grid than some of the traditional ways of providing this service with facilities and equipment that's a bit slower to respond and isn't able to provide the same value of the same level of service we're able to provide here. We've done a lot of new innovative things at this facility. It's the first hybrid facility in Ontario as well, where we've put solar panels on the roof and shown how energy storage can work together with renewable energy to integrate and balance that renewable energy. We've tested out even faster services, fast frequency response, so new services that nobody else in the province is doing with this facility as well. So it's been really exciting to operate this project over the last number of years. So we can go on to the next slide. And so in Ontario, overall, the province has a lack of capacity. So as the province is looking at the energy needs across Ontario, there's a lot of load growth and different other resources, some of the nuclear facilities and others that may be coming offline. So they've identified a large need for what's called capacity now in the province over the coming years. And what that capacity service is a little bit different than the frequency regulation service we've been doing with the flywheels. It's a minimum of sort of 4 hours of availability that's needed for providing energy to the grid during certain hours of the day when everybody's sort of turning on lights and using the electricity on the system. So there's a procurement process that the IESO, the Ontario Independent Electricity System Operator, is now launching. And so EnerStore, we are a qualified applicant in this process. And so we've gone through a number of steps already to show sort of the expertise that we have and that we've built, and being able to bid new projects into this process. So I think the date is correct. Sorry, on there. It was recently changed, but so what we're looking at doing in Minto is expanding our flywheel facility to incorporate lithium-ion batteries, and lithium-ion batteries are able to provide that capacity service that the system is now looking for. So the new project, that's the expansion that's planned at Minto, would essentially be adding battery containers to the site. And it would be, as we bid into the procurement process, the bids are due February 16th, 2023. And if we are successful in that procurement process, we would be able to achieve a 20+ year contract with the IESO to keep that facility going for over 20 years, which is great. The commercial operations of the new expansion would be targeted to be May of 2025 and no later than May of 2026. And so we would be in construction for about a year or so there before getting into commercial operations. If you go to the next slide, there is a little image here just kind of showing, so we are expecting to keep the existing flywheels running. The existing contract for the flywheels is set to expire, but our objective is to renegotiate that contract and be able to keep those flywheels running and place the battery containers outside of the building. They're each in their own sort of container units. There's an image down there of battery containers that we have at another site in Ontario at Strathroy. And then the image just above just shows sort of an example layout, so you can see sort of how those containers might be placed on the site adjacent to the building. Yeah, I think there is, I think that's probably good for this slide. Lithium-ion batteries, happy to answer more questions about those as well. Essentially, lithium-ion batteries are the same batteries that are used in our cell phones and laptops that everyone's got here. But basically stacking a lot of them together and putting them into these containers solutions. The containers themselves come from a number of different vendors, and they meet certain standards of safety around electrical sort of standards and fire propagation as well, to make sure if there is ever some sort of an issue, it doesn't propagate from one container to the next. There's a number of different sort of safety standards that we make sure that any vendors that we work with have met before moving forward with these projects. So what we're here today to request as well is hopefully a municipal council support resolution. So in the IESO RFP process, they have put out some criteria, and they have something called rated criteria, where if a project has municipal council support, it can gain a few extra points in the RFP process and essentially be a bit more competitive in that RFP process because of that. So we're here today to ask for all of your support for this potential expansion at the Minto site, and we are also aware that This municipal council support that we'd be asking for does not circumvent any other permitting, building permits or other permitting processes that we would need to go through. That would still continue on its own as well. I think that's all we have here today. We've provided some language. There is a template for a support resolution. That was the language on that slide there. And so we're, very happy to answer any questions and happy to be here today.
So questions for Shivani. Go ahead, Councillor.
What would happen if you didn't meet the RFP and didn't get accepted for the project? What happens to your flywheels then?
So the flywheels and the batteries we're looking at as two separate projects, essentially on the same site. So the flywheels wouldn't be impacted if we aren't successful in the RFP. Our objective is still to try to renegotiate a new contract to keep those flywheels operating. We're going to need to do that regardless of whether we're successful in the RFP or not. So the RFP is more focused on trying to expand and bring batteries into that site.
So you expect that you'll win that RFP or?
That's we hope so. It's a good question. I guess it's a competitive process, and so we have to go through that process. We would essentially will be putting in a bid price that we think will be competitive and that we'll be able to sufficiently sort of construct the project within that and bring in investment into that as well. And hopefully that is competitive and that is successful.
Our council support would go a long way in moving towards that.
It would, yeah.
Councillor Ponovitz, go ahead.
Through you, Minto. What does IESO stand for?
It's the Independent Electricity System Operator.
Deputy Mayor Anderson.
So lithium-ion batteries and storage facilities of same, so you don't produce these batteries, you're looking at storing batteries, it sounded like produced by other companies. Are there any biohazard environmental issues with those things? And in my world of healthcare, batteries don't hold their charges as long as they say they're going to hold their charges. We have mountains and mountains and mountains of non-etchable batteries that etch and become useless.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So because it's a 20-year contract, right? And so we want the batteries to be able to operate for 20 years. And you're right. As you operate the battery and the more you use the battery, it degrades. So it sort of loses charge over time. So essentially what we do is we monitor the state of the health of those batteries, and we're continually, if we need to switch out battery cells and augmentation, we call it, bringing in new battery cells as well, so that it maintains the ability to provide those services to the grid for the full 20-year life of the facility.
And where do we dispose of all these ion batteries that are going to
Yeah.
cover the world by the time everybody has an electric car mandated by the government and limited, we can't get rid of regular garbage?
Mm-hmm.
Any
Yes.
ideas on what happens to all that?
Yes. So what we do really is we work with our vendors who are providing the batteries around recycling programs for those batteries as well. So at the end of the life, being able to take those batteries back and recycle those batteries is the objective. It is being done in a number of places, and that's what we've been doing with our sort of existing facilities. We haven't gotten to the end of life on a facility yet to really go through that process in action yet, but there's a lot of lithium ion batteries out in the world now, and yes, and going to be a lot more, and there's a number of really great Canadian companies and other companies working on those processes, and it's been shown sort of that it is possible to recycle, I think, more than 90% of the materials in the batteries, which is great. I wouldn't say that the commercial processes are able to do that yet, but we're working. That's certainly our objective, and to make sure that happens.
Well, yeah, somebody has to come up with that answer, right? Because like, what are we going to do if we don't?
Mm-hmm.
So can they actually use the material to rebuild more batteries? Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. All right, thank you.
Other questions? Battery technology has came a long ways.
It has,
So-
yeah.
So question, Shivani, I'm looking at the picture. The containers are going to look like those. They're not going to look like a sea container like the picture that we're looking at from Strathroy.
So different vendors have different sort of shapes and sizes of their containers. The ones at Strathroy look a little more like a shipping container. These ones look a little prettier. I think I guess we haven't selected the vendor yet, and so we kind of work with a number of the top tier vendors, and so it would look probably something in between. Yeah, if you want to add to that. Yeah.
No, like the Strathroy project was one of the first battery projects built in Ontario, and it was at a time where they haven't come up with the nice fancy container looking systems. So now they're more like purpose made kind of systems like this, as opposed to grabbing a shipping container, putting shelving inside, putting batteries in racks. And that's how the original battery systems were built 10 years ago. And now they've refined it. So it's less, they just look nicer. So I think I think most of the suppliers now are coming with kind of pre-made, purpose-built little units. Now, nobody goes inside these structures versus the one in Strathroy. You can actually walk inside that one and walk down a hallway in the center for maintenance. All the maintenance is done from the outside. So all these doors pop open. You just work on things from the outside. Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, so the resolution is moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the Council of the Town of Minto supports the development, construction, and operation of the long-term reliability project on the municipal lands, and further that this resolution's sole purpose is to enable the proponent to receive rated criteria points under ELT1 RFP, or to satisfy its obligation under an awarded ELT1 contract and may not be used for the purposes of any other form of approval in relation to the proposal or the long-term reliability project or for any other purpose. Rated criteria points will be used to rank the proponent's proposal in relation to other proposals received by the IESO under ELT1 RFP. So if we pass this resolution, when will we see you guys again?
Well, probably soon, actually, because regardless of how things go right now, we do also plan on doing a community open house session in relation to the project. That'll probably happen
In the new year.
in January sometime. So we haven't booked it just yet. So we'll have that public dialogue. We probably host it at the current plant, so people can also see what's inside the flywheel facility, even though the new project we'd be talking about would be something out in the parking lot effectively. And so we'll be back in January. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of this motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you folks can stay or leave.
I'll hang around for a little bit. Finish my cup.
Okay, so moving right along, we have public question period. The next item then is correspondence received for information or requiring direction. We have one item. That's the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority minutes from August 20th. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Gunson, that the council receive the correspondence as information. The one item, I'm not sure whether we want to pull that out and it's just minutes from, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor of this motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. So, reports on committee town staff. So we have committee minutes for approval, the cultural roundtable committee minutes of November 28th, 22nd.
Yeah,
22, I
so
should say.
good evening, Mayor Turn, members of council. I am not going to go through all the minutes. I trust everyone has read them. I will point out the main item that we worked on at this meeting was the development of our diversity, equity, and inclusion terms of reference, which is really important. We've been waiting to get to this point for some time. So we're looking forward to launching this committee and recruiting membership in the new year. So we're looking for support for those terms tonight. Unless anyone has any questions.
Questions for Belinda? It is an amazing report, looking at the cultural roundtable and the other 2 or 3 reports there. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of things happening in our community. So if you folks haven't read them, I really think we should. So
Mayor Turton, can I mention something
Yes,
that's
go
a
ahead.
little different, I think, with this committee that I think it's important to state, and something that we didn't recognize starting this, that the safety of the members of this committee is of utmost importance, which we don't need to worry about that for any of our other committees, that the people on that committee will be safe. So I think that was a bit of a awakening moment that we need to worry about that. And I just hope that the Minto community is bigger than that and we don't have to worry about things like that. But sadly, things are happening in other communities that are working on this stuff. So I think it's very important that we're strong and we stand up against things that may come out and we protect the people that are stepping up to fight against these issues. So I thought that was important to mention.
I agree, Belinda, that's extremely important. And I'm hoping the same. I think we have a very good community, a supportive community, and once they, everybody gets on board and figures out exactly what we're trying to do here, I have faith that people will jump on and really support it. So, any questions for Belinda? We have a recommendation moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the council receives the Cultural Roundtable Committee minutes of November 28th for information and approves any recommendations contained therein. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Next one, Belinda, is the Economic Development and Planning Committee from November 10th. Do you want to just continue,
Sure.
please?
Yeah, this one will be very short. Housing, hot topic. That was the topic of this meeting. I'm not going to get into everything. Yana was there from the county, provided an update on what the county's doing, and a bit of discussion around Bill 23, which we've discussed plenty and will continue to do. And the other piece around this was the report from our awesome building department, which council already saw. So really, there's nothing new that needs to be brought forward here.
Okay, so you've read the reports. Any questions for Belinda? Hearing none, the recommendation is moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the council receives the Economic Development and Planning Committee minutes of November 10th, 2022 for information and approves any recommendations contained therein. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you very much, and I'm going to pass the chair over to Councillor Elliott for the Community Services Advisory Committee minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Turton, and I'm going to pass it over to Matt Lubers.
Right on. Thank you, Councillor Elliott. So the committee met 2 weeks ago at the Clifford Arena, where we're currently open at least 5 days per week to offer pickleball, ball hockey, and shuffleboard programming. We had a delegation lined up to discuss the usage of the ball diamond in Clifford, but they've opted to attend the January meeting as we do have 2 new committee members and 1 new council representative starting then. They had planned to voice their concerns verbally, but we've asked that they prepare something in writing and in advance for next month for the benefit of the new committee members. Grace updated us on activities at the Norgan, and it's quite busy there this week with school rentals. We'll be shut down this weekend and next weekend for feature films, but do have a lot of private rentals on the go. It's also been a busy time at the facilities, hosting numerous events like town programming in Clifford, as well as hockey tournaments and other functions in Harriston and Palmerston. Upcoming, we have 10 free shinny and public skating sessions starting this Friday, December 23rd, weather permitting, with full details on our website and social media. And we also have a great community event at the Harriston Arena on Christmas Day, but we'll wait until new business to get into those details. The dressing rooms at the Palmerston Arena have been well received, as well as the new lobby area. And these spaces are quite helpful for tournaments. Some other town programming, including our after-school programs, grassroots basketball and grassroots hockey, continue to run well. Our childcare staff and grassroots volunteers are wonderful and will be getting a much deserved break over the holidays. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you. I just want to state something that's very important to me. Our community services, which is recreation, is often considered a soft service. And I always feel that our staff are not getting the credit they should, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But in fact, our staff go beyond what we need. If we need fences at an event, if we need people at Clifford for an event up there, they're spread out all over the place. We got summer programs working in a winter place in Clifford. We got hockey, we got figure skating, we've got groups that come in and rent our facilities. They go above and beyond. Greg has often had to ask people to work extra and do extra things for them. And I really want to recognize them for what they do. And from Matt on down, our Northern Theater and the whole works, I really appreciate what they do. And I just want to bring that forward to council and to the public to let you know that it's a strong service, not a soft service.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
Got a motion here somewhere. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman and seconded by Councillor Gunson that the council receive the Community Service Advisory Committee minutes of December 5th, 2022 for information and approves any recommendations contained therein. I know anyone has any questions or comments they'd like to bring forward? If not, all in favor? Carry. I believe I'm still on.
Yes, sir. You go right ahead, Councillor Elliott.
And Matt, I'm so happy that you speak for me.
Thanks again, Councillor Elliott. So as noted in the report, it's taken some time to get to where we are today. This project, the commercial kitchen, was a part of the approved capital ask for 2022 and will be completed in 2023. We're hoping to award tonight and then start in May and complete by mid-June. There was some back and forth getting the rendered drawings completed, and it also took time to get the RFT issued as we had another small project on the go at the Palmerston Arena. This tender covers most of the project, including the supply and set in place of appliances, countertops, and other accessories for both the kitchen and bar area. That said, there are other elements that will be completed by town staff or other contractors, as noted, and that ranges from the demolition work to the point of connection that will be required for gas, electrical, and plumbing. Steve Hardy is acting as project manager and quarterbacking this for us, and he'll help procure everything required. Given the estimated cost of all the work to be completed, we anticipate this project can be completed on budget.
Thank you. I'll read the motion and I'll ask the questions. The Council of Town of Minto awards RFT 2022-12 supply, delivery and installation of kitchen equipment and supplies, Palmerston District Community Center to STOP Restaurant Supply in the amount of $142,348.17, excluding HST. Hope it doesn't go to 18 cents. Gonna hold it to the 17 cents. That's a joke, sorry. Any questions? No comments or questions? All in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Carry. Pass it back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott, and I will ask Belinda to give us their presentation on the Public Art Community Improvement Grant.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Turton. Normally, we wouldn't bring such a small grant like this to council, but because the committee doesn't meet likely until January, February, we didn't want to hold things up. Many of you are probably familiar with the Wellington County Barn Quilt Trail. And as of right now, I believe Minto has the most, especially in Palmerston, where there's 50 barn quilts and 80 across Minto. The goal here is to continue to grow this program and to help build tourism in our community. And the committee decided it might be a good way to use our CIP program, which already has an element to support public art projects. So Bonnie Dofer, she's the champion behind the Barn Quilt Initiative, went around with Connie Robinson, a champion from our committee, to notify our businesses to try and get more of them on board. And this is our first application from Crown Palmerston. As you can see, they've already installed their beautiful barn quilt there. And our grant is a matching grant of 50%. So it's a very small amount of $122.50. which still leaves plenty of money in our CIP budget at the end of the year.
Questions for Belinda? Seeing none, moved by, the recommendation is moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the report ACTEV 2022-020 regarding the Public Art Community Improvement Grant number P01, Crown Palmerston, 450 Main Street West, for $122.50, and that the Council of the Town of Minto approves this grant. All in favor of this motion? That's carried. Thank you. Let's move right along to the Launch It lease agreement. Belinda?
So we started Launch It in 2014. We're entering our 9th year here, and it is time to renew our lease agreement. So we've been very fortunate for some time to have an amazing landlord who only charged us for 1 unit. And in Unit 3, whenever we had a tenant, we would just forward their payment on to that landlord. And if we didn't have a tenant, we weren't having to pay for it. So we had a really great situation. And I believe last year at budget time, I gave a heads up that the building had been sold and we weren't expecting to receive the same treatment. So we do have a new landlord. And yes, they are looking for rent for Unit 3. Fortunately, though, they're not looking to jack the rent on the other unit or that unit. So as you can see, they're looking for $1,750. That's combined for the 2 units the first year, and then year 2 would be $1,800 a month. We do have several tenants in the space, and we are working on agreements to secure them for the next 2 years. So as you can see, we're pretty close to even collecting that money from our existing tenants. So that's great. And some of our new ones that we've got too. The Chamber, who's also a key partner in Launch It, is bumped their budget up a bit too. So they're giving us $1,500 additional money this year. They obviously give us a lot more than that. So we're happy with the arrangement we've come up with the landlord and are looking for moving forward to signing that agreement.
Questions for Belinda? It's very, very straightforward. It's a great report. So moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the report ACTEV 2022-021 regarding the Launch It lease agreement and authorizes the mayor and the clerk to sign the agreement. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. Belinda, you're doing great. Then let's move right into the extension, the request from McClellan Industries.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We'll hope to keep doing great here. So as you're aware, in September of 2020, we sold land to McClellan Industries, 1-acre parcel in the Palmerston Industrial Park, with the intent that they would construct a 7,200 square foot building within our development timelines. Well, 2020 to 2022 has been a mess, not just with COVID, but this business has been impacted by the war in Ukraine and the work that they do there. So they had to get out of their building in St. Thomas area. They're currently renting, but for a variety of reasons, they have not met the covenants. So Ashley, Terry, and myself met with them. And they do have their building permit, so that's not the issue. That's not the timeline. It's more the timeline to complete construction. That is the issue. So Terry can extend their building permit timeline with no direction from council to do that, and he's comfortable to do that. But we do need to extend that timeline then under our agreement of purchase and sale. So what we are looking at here was, the dates are in here. So he would have to build, I think it'd be finished by February 2nd, 2024, with the extensions in place. And we've been very clear that there will be no more extensions. If council grants that tonight, there will be no further extensions looked at for this project. So that's where we're at.
It's 14 months away. Am I correct? Questions for Belinda? No issues on this? Sorry?
So is that achievable?
Being he has majority of the building on site, it would be. The thing that he has to do is secure contractors and yeah, then get the work rolling.
That's why I'm asking, is it achievable?
It's totally up to him in terms of how much effort he puts forward to securing a contractor. So I can't say
So
guaranteed he can do it.
theoretically, it's achievable.
It is possible, absolutely.
I just wonder, like, is there any point if it's not achievable? 14 months isn't very long anymore in building buildings. It becomes a lengthy process.
It's not a massive building either. So like it's 7,200 square feet. So if it was the one across the road, I would say yes, no, they can't have it done in 14 months, but.
I should also mention they've paid all their bills related to the project, so that's also a good sign. They're not in arrears on anything, so that's promising as of right now.
No other questions?
So just a scenario, so if they get halfway through, you know, we've said no more extensions, so they get halfway through the building and then through unavoidable delays or supply delays or whatever, what happens then? They forfeit the building that they've started?
I wish you didn't answer or ask that question.
It seems logical to me
So
to ask.
we could enforce the agreement of purchase and sale through contract law, which means we could take the property back as is. So we could take it back with a half-constructed building. I would not initiate that from a staff level. I would be reaching out to you for direction before we went down that road because it's a messy one.
Right, so we really don't hope he gets his building done by.
If he gets started, I hope he keeps rolling with it, so.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions? The recommendation moved by Councillor Podnovitz, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Councillor Town of Minto receives report ECDEV 2022-022 regarding the extension request for McClellan Industries Limited and approves an extension to complete the building by February 2nd, 2024. All in favor of that motion? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So the next item on the list is Plan 2022-064, 136-22, the Broderick Dale LeMay. And we've went through this a little bit, but I'm going to ask Ashley to present the report, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Turton. So as previously mentioned with the minor variance, there was a semi-detached dwelling constructed at 164/166 Webb Street in Harrison. So this component is related to the severance and subdividing the semi into two so that they can be sold with two separate owners with distinct and separate ownership. That being said, this is what spurred the minor variance. Ultimately, it is a pretty straightforward severance once that zoning compliance is achieved. The county official plan does endorse intensification within urban centers for lands that are appropriately zoned, have adequate servicing, so on and so forth. And town staff are satisfied that the requirements will be addressed with the recommended conditions. As noted, there is a zoning deficiency for the front yard setback, which is what's being addressed currently with the minor variance. We did include that as a condition to make sure that it is achieved. A parkland dedication fee is also a standard requirement for urban lots in town. Standard financial conditions are recommended from the clerk's department and treasury, which is taxes are paid, water, sewers all paid. And then Public Works Department has included satisfactory access conditions, municipal servicing and right-of-way works, which is very standard, as well as the revised grading and drainage plan, which is also covered under both the development agreement and the minor variance. So we are recommending that council recommends the County of Wellington Land Division Committee approve the consent with the inclusion of the following conditions in the report.
Questions? Everybody understand the questions? Okay, so the recommendation was moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson.
So we don't have to read that whole thing
Okay.
through you. Mayor Turton, if you wanted to add, it would be that the Council of Town of Minto recommends County of Wellington Land Division Committee approve consent application B 136/22 Broderick Dale LeMay for land legally described as Part Lot 8 and Part Lot 7 Southwest Side, Webb Street, Part PL Town of Harrison, Part 2, Plan 61R21269, Town of Minto, with a municipal address of 164-166 Webb Street, Harrison, in the Town of Minto, and that the conditions be considered as written in the recommendation.
Okay, there's 8 conditions. If we all understand what we're voting here, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of this motion? That's carried. Thank you. All right. Next item. We'll ask Ashley to move right into the next. It has the development agreement with Broderick Dale LeMay at 164-166 Webb Street in Harrison.
Perfect, thank you. So this also pertains to the same project, and it is a condition of the minor variance. So the development agreement is a legally binding agreement between the town and the property owner whose property encroaches onto town property. In this case, the agreement will grant the current owner and future owners permission to temporarily park a motor vehicle on the town lands, which is the untraveled portion of the road allowance on which the driveway is located on. So some key agreement points. Continuous access must be granted to the town. The owner shall indemnify the town from liabilities, and we will require a revised grading plan. This is something that's covered again with the minor variance and the severance. The agreement is only binding for the existing semi-detached structure, so if in the future this structure is demolished, the new structure would have to meet the required setbacks, and the owner must provide the town proof of insurance to further indemnify the town. This is something that our lawyer has recommended with previous agreements. In terms of financial considerations, as with other developments and development types, such as your pre-consultation, your subdivision agreement, all of that, it's the sole responsibility of the owner to pay for the town's costs associated with creating and registering the agreement on title, including all external review costs, and this is legally binding per the development agreement. So we are recommending that council receives this report for information, and further that council considers passing a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign the development agreement.
Questions for Ashley? It's very, very straightforward. Thank you for that, Ashley. The recommendation is moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the planning coordinator's report regarding the development agreement for property legally described as Part Lot 8 and Part Lot 7, Southwest South Webb Street, Town of Harrison, Part 2, Plan 61R21269, Town of Minto, with the municipal address of 164-166 Webb Street, Harrison, in the Town of Minto, for information. And further, that the council considers passing a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and the clerk to sign the development agreement. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So now we're going to move into a building bylaw amendment. I'm going to ask Terry to talk about this, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Turton. With the recent setback encroachments that we have had to deal with, as well as the recent passing of Bill 23, staff has felt it necessary to explore options for to help protect builders from errors occurring on site. And with the passing of Bill 23 and the loss of authority that the town now has with respect to smaller residential developments, staff met and explored options of what we can do moving forward to address kind of both situations in one fell swoop. So with respect to the setback encroachments, staff met and came up with 3 options to try to prevent this from reoccurring. The first option that we explored was to issue conditional building permits to allow a builder to build up to the foundation stage and then stop until a surveyor comes out and certifies the location of that foundation to ensure that it doesn't encroach. I'll go through each of my options that are in the report one by one. I'll give kind of an explanation as I go. Staff did not like this option. It will definitely solve the problem before things go. Unfortunately, it will be at the cost of a few $1,000s per dwelling unit, as well as a constant delay in the development of a house or a semi. as it takes time to get the foundation there and then schedule the surveyor to come out, which is an additional trip to the site to verify it. So in a couple of the other options, we felt that we have a better solution. The second is kind of the lowest level of assurance for the town. This would be to have the surveyor, when they're out doing the grade plan for the site, to provide the offset pins for the foundation when they're there. So there'll be a physical denotation where the foundation is and the distances to the foundation. So we felt that was okay, but in the case of the construction of a single family dwelling, there isn't any check after the fact of where exactly that building is located. Whereas the setbacks for the semis that we've dealt with, there is the planning application, the part lot control or the severance that follows up after, which is why we realized the errors that had occurred. So the third option that staff came up with and that we're recommending amendments to the building bylaw would be to have the surveyor provide the offset pins at the time of doing the grading plan, include those offset pin locations and what they represent on the grade plan itself. And then thirdly, once they're there, close to the end of the build, to verify the grading, they're also going to verify what the as-built setbacks are. So it's kind of the best of the world. So it will cost the builders a few $100 to get the surveyors to do the additional works. A bunch of builders do it currently to provide that location, so to give them a benchmark, not all of them. So this will mandate it across the board. So again, yeah, as I mentioned, it will cost a couple of $100. But with these scenarios or situations that we've dealt with, these projects have been shut down for a couple of months, which you've got carrying cost for the mortgage of the materials that are there, and they can't do anything with it. So this is what staff felt the best way to, we can't be on site holding their hand to make sure it's exactly where it is, and we don't have the authority as building officials to do that. Only surveyors can, but this is kind of the best way we can help builders help themselves. So that is what will be in our recommendation. With respect to Bill 23, so what it has done is remove the power from a municipality to request site plan approval for residential developments of 10 or less units. Our current site plan approval bylaw requires any development more than 3 go through the site plan approval process. So unfortunately, I know Bill 23 is trying to build more homes faster and all the 1.5 million homes slogans that they're throwing out there. But unfortunately, what it's doing is causing municipalities to develop processes to cover off the processes that we're not allowed to do anymore. So the amendments that I'm proposing to address what we had asked for before through Bill 2020, or sorry, through site plan approval, will now be required through our building bylaw. Unfortunately, our building bylaw can only deal with on-site issues. Like grading, swales, like all those sort of things. Any of the off-site works that we dealt with through site plan approval, Public Works is looking at amending the servicing policy, possibly renaming it, to allow us to address any of our off-site concerns. So if there's no curb in this specific area for this development and we need it, through that process, we would be asking for it, whereas as before, it would have been through the site plan agreement. So a few things that I'm adding in there to cover off what we're no longer allowed to ask for would be additional on-site and off-site elevation datums. Identify and the location of all hard surfaces, so sidewalks, driveways, flat patios, that sort of thing. The rain leader location and sump discharge locations and the direction they're going. So we know which direction with bigger developments, there's bigger impervious surfaces such as the roof. So we want to know where that water's all heading to. And lastly, the location of required municipal service connections and laterals. So we know where the proposed municipal extensions will be. I already mentioned that point. So the other thing you'll see in my report, as well as the bylaw later, we're also renaming it. So it used to be called the grading plan or a grading plan. Now it's going to be called the approved grading, drainage, and servicing plan, being the scope of it has expanded to what it was previously. So to me, that is a minor change. Lastly, as we opened up the building bylaw, my staff pleaded to me to increase the amount of the project cost before our deposit kicks in. So currently, any project that has a construction value of more than $25,000, we hold a $2,000 damage deposit. So any damage to municipal infrastructure or any grading issues, we've got that money to fix it. And this kind of came as a shock to me, but it really shouldn't have. When we created this bylaw back in 2019, the scope for this deposit we had designed it for or set the criteria for was for a structure of approximately a 2-car garage. So 25,000 for a 2-car garage. Unfortunately, that is not even close to the case these days. So we're seeing that same structure coming in at a cost of 75,000. So decks and small porches that we used to see all the time that were, minor projects, those are 25,000 and more. So we're collecting on minor projects just because of the magical dollar figure. So in order to get things back to where the scope was we were asking for these deposits before, I'm just requesting an increase in the deposit tolerance. So what kicks in for a project when we have to hold that deposit. Not only will it help my staff, it will take some workload off of Treasury as they have to deposit the checks, they have to track the checks, and then they have to issue the checks, and the mayor's wrist is getting sore from signing all these deposit checks that have to go back. So I am, available if there's any questions. Other than that, just request, or my recommendation is the council receives my report for information and considers passing a bylaw in regular session.
Questions for our CBO? Go ahead, Councilor
Through you,
Potter.
Mayor. Just a question, Terry, on, you referenced the provide an offset pin identifying location of the front 2 corners. Now, is that going to identify any setbacks on sides as well?
Yes, it will. So it will typically, with the offset pin, they put it in a location, and that location is referenced to the setback to the building. So it gives you I don't want to call it a northeast, southwest direction, but it'll give you like front to back offset. The foundation starts X number of feet back from the pin, and then X number of feet to another direction. So it gives you kind of the 2 distances that you can line it up from. The other thing, and I should have maybe clarified this a little bit earlier, nobody builds a simple house anymore. As you've seen, even with Brody's semi that comes up, there's technically almost 3 fronts of the building. So you've got the garage face, you've got the covered front porch face, then you've got the house face. What does that offset pin reference to? And there's more complicated situations where one garage is a foot ahead of the other. So, and that's why I mentioned about actually putting that pin location and dimensions on the grade plan. It shows exactly what it's referencing to, not just a pin stuck in the mud on site.
Just a follow-up to that then, if, say they set the pins in there, and then the surveyor confirms them after the building is up, basically, right? So there still could be potential they could screw up, but the chances are lessened with some kind of reference that you have on site.
Yep, that's correct. There always is the potential for errors. When I talk to people about setback and locating foundations, yes, the setback is 6 meters. If your forms swell as you're pouring the concrete, now you're down to 5.95. Like it doesn't take much. So I always recommend people to leave themselves a buffer. I can't force that. If they meet the minimum, they meet the minimum. But there is situations where foundations are out an inch or 2, and then we have to go through the minor variance process for those as well.
One follow-up, one more question. I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to your site plan, your security deposits of 2,000, is that enough?
Knock on wood, we've never had any issues with it. We based it on typical subdivision deposits that we've seen. I think they're up to 2,500 now. Even if it's not, or for projects that we don't require to hold the security, so ones that say are 50,000 bucks, we don't hold the security. There are provisions in our building bylaw that if the amount exceeds the deposit, we can bill them back the overage in taxes. And if we haven't collected a deposit, we can bill them the full amount. So we'll be, from a cash flow perspective, we'll be out of pocket for a short term, but we'll get our money back.
The only reason I brought that up is in my past life, we had the same deposit requirements. And there's not, I'd say 10% of the proponents we dealt with just walked away and left the $2,000 on the table. So we had to use that money to, go in and do the work for them, which ends up costing more money anyway. But it's just very onerous on the municipality. But if you think 2,000 is enough, then, I mean, it is what it is.
So far, so good. Having said that, though, I am looking at doing a top to bottom overhaul of the building bylaw next year. This is kind of a short term, let's try to solve the problems we're having now. But there are other items in the building bylaw that I want to fix with it regarding procedure wise, like electronic submissions and stuff like that. So I'll definitely take that into consideration when I come back and bug you guys next year.
Other questions? Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question about, is this basically just urban areas and where it's obvious, or sorry, where it's maybe not obvious? Like in if you have a rural property and you've got feet, all kinds of feet to worry about, then is it still a requirement?
So we would apply this to all urban properties, even large urban, say a 1 acre parcel in town, we would still apply it to. We would not apply it to rural properties. There's just not the grading impacts, not the setback issues and stuff like that that you have in these smaller lots. So we would not apply it.
Okay. And another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if the surveyor is incorrect, then is that between the builder and the surveyor? Like we're kind of out of that then?
In causing a zoning deficiency. So we would not be out of it per se. If there is an issue, the foundation is cited incorrectly on whatever basis it is, the town would be involved in going after the owner. So it would be in every case, regardless of who was at fault for an on-site mistake, the owner from the building code's perspective is ultimately responsible. So we would be putting the orders on the owner. Owner has to rectify it, however that means, minor variance, removal of the structure, whatever. The owner would have to go after whoever did the error civilly. So if it was an error caused by the concrete crew, they decided they didn't know how to read their tape measure that day, the owner would have to go on that after them. We wouldn't be going after the concrete contractor.
That's what I was asking. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Gary, thank you for your time and effort into this. I know it's been a bit of a pain for you and your department. So thank you for spending the time and sorting it out.
Perfect. Thank you.
So the recommendation is moved by Councillor Potvitz, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report BD 2022-009, Building Bylaw Amendment for information, and further that Council considers passing a bylaw in regular session. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you, and I'll pass the chair over to Councillor Gunson for truck tenders.
Thanks, Mayor Turner. So tonight we've got 3 public work reports, and I'm going to ask Mike to report on them.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. The first report is the pickup truck tender results. Unfortunately, back in August, we did go to tender, and at that time there wasn't any 2022 vehicles left available. So under the advice of the supplier
to wait until they had confirmed 2023 pricing. That just happened in November, so we're bringing this report forward now. But it actually worked out in our favor in the long run. The second go round actually came in about $14,000 cheaper for the newer models. So it did work out for us in the long run. So the two trucks that were tendered, the one replaces a 2015 F-250 in the roads department. And that would come with like a six-way plow for snow removal and a sander in the box. The second item is a 2017 F-250 replacement in the wastewater department. Is there any questions with this report?
So I'm just going to read, moved by Councilor Zimmerman, second by Councilor Elliott. The Council of the Town of Minto receives report PW 2022-030 regarding truck tender results, and the Council of the Town of Minto awards the tender to Leslie Motors of Harriston for a combined total of $167,528, excluding HST. Is there any questions? Ron?
Whereabouts you gonna use those trucks? Will they be in town or will they be all over the place?
Yeah, they're primarily all over the municipality. Yeah, wherever we need them, primarily the one in the wastewater departments for rounds at the different wastewater facilities. And then with the roads department, that one's primarily used for winter patrols in the winter operations. But then that one's primarily used for addressing parking lots in the winter time as well, in some of the smaller areas that the larger equipment just not feasible or safely to do that. Thank you.
Good thinking.
Ed?
Yes, what do you do with the old trucks?
So the old trucks are typically traded in at the time of tender. Under the advice of Leslie Motors, they, like, with the uncertainty of the market and the potential late deliveries on these units, the price could go up or it could go down. So it could work in our favor again if we hang on to them, depending on how the market goes. And the same, it's hard for them to give a value on a truck that realistically could be another year older when it physically goes back to them at this point. So this is the first time we've run into this situation with our trade-ins and pickups, but we'll see how it turns out in the long run. We still have the opportunity to trade it in if the value's there, or we can go to another option at that time.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. So this tender is really being fulfilled almost a year late. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So does that mean then that, like, have we gained a year then? Because then the next time that we trade vehicles, are we going to look at?
Theoretically, yeah. With these two units, we have gained a year. Like I said, the one in the roads department right now being a 2015 is 7 years old. The wastewater's 5. And if the counselors that have been here to remember our equipment replacement program, the 250s we had in there scheduled for a 4-year replacement. And then the 150s were actually a 5-year. So they still do have a resale value before, and also before we get into any of the major repairs. Unfortunately, with the 2015 this year, we actually did see a significant repair. It was a couple $1,000 and some downtime. We usually don't see those sort of repairs with turnover, but we're still making it work.
I guess though, does that kind of mess up the whole chart? Do you know what I mean? Like, does that mean we're going, like, if we're delaying this one, then does that mean that there will be a year coming up that we'll have like 4 trucks we need, for instance?
Not necessarily. Usually we'll spread it out enough that we shouldn't see any more than 2 pickups per year at any given time. Unfortunately, with some of the supply chain issues that we've seen this past year, I was going to go out to tender for a new backhoe and a sidewalk machine.
And that hasn't happened this year, just with some unforeseen situations along the way and just the different procurements along the way. But those items will be carried over then into the next year. And some of the other issues that we're finding, just talking to some of our neighbors too, is with some of the delays with the equipment and the delays in the supply chains, is they're looking at actually going out, I'm gonna say like a couple years in advance, bringing it to council in preparation for delivery date in a year and a half to 2 years down the road. So it's gonna take some rejigging, but we've got the best interests of the municipality in mind too, so do what we kind of need to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? There's no more questions. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Anybody against? It's passed. Next report, Mike.
Thanks. So this next report is Municipal Drain 95 petition. This report is basically, it's more of a formality. Back in, in January of this year, there was Section 78 signed for an upgrade to the curtain system. And the reason for the petition at this time is the property furthest away from the outlet, and a sufficient outlet actually stops a property line too short to their property, so they don't have a physical outlet for systematically tiling the property. So basically, they have to extend the existing drain or the upgraded drain one more property line, which under like a Section 78, you can go downstream for a more sufficient outlet without doing a petition, but you can't extend it upstream to another property. So that's just the reasoning for the petition at this time. And the RJ Burnside, they've already got 3/4 of the report work completed. So this is just something that they need in order to complete the final sort of task associated with this drain. And then the report will be coming to council probably early in the new year. Any further questions?
Thanks, Mike. So I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. Council of the Town of Minto receives report PW 2022-031 regarding municipal drain 95 petition and appoints RJ Burnside and Associates Limited to represent the town's interest in this regard. Is there any questions? I don't see any questions, so I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody against? It's passed. Last one, Mike.
So the last one is a Section 78 for an upgrade of a current system, which the current situation there, the property had an open ditch covered in 98, I believe it was. And at that time, it came down to a timing issue. They actually were going to upgrade it at that time as well. But the project was just moving too slowly at that time. They sort of just dropped the issue at that time. So now it's coming back to fruition at this time. So this is a smaller project. I don't foresee too many delays on this one either. Bearing there's no upstream landowners that are really against it at this time, but is there any questions with this one?
Okay, I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Budnitz, that Council of the Town of Minto receives report PW 2022-032 regarding municipal drain 17 improvement requests and appoints RJ Burnside and Associates Limited to represent the town's interest in this regard. Any questions? No questions. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Against? It's passed. I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Dirksen.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Gunston. And we have Gordon Duff with 2 reports tonight. So I'll call on you to give us the first report, please.
Great. Thank you, Chair Dirksen. So we have our annual report on future rates and fees. You've got quite a long presentation here, but I think there's less than meets the eye. There's a lot of 0% and NNAs there. So Mark kind of quarterbacked this, but we have all the department heads too, if you have any specific questions. As I say, most of it is having a look at what our existing fees are, bearing in mind people's ability to pay in that, with some slight adjustments. A lot of things, I think we made quite a few changes a couple of years ago, so I think it's more recognizing some changes or maybe inequities. And the water and sewer, if you recall, we're on basically a 5-year bylaw, and this is just another phase-in of the rates that were contained in that bylaw. But anyway, we'll certainly entertain any specific questions or any concerns.
Okay, made it into a really big report here, so anybody find anything that they wanted to know more about? Questions or comments?
One
Counselor,
quick thing.
oh, yeah.
When we're dealing with users, do we give them any information before that we may be proceeding to upgrade or up the rates, or do we just do it and then tell them after?
Well, there's certain like notices like about this meeting here, so that's one. It's all on the websites, and I believe primarily it's community services, so I don't think anybody's hopefully blindsided or anything. You know what comes along. And Matt's always consulting with the various organizations too on their financial status. And, you know, well, as you well know, in the last 2 years, we made a lot of accommodations as many of our groups kind of struggled, and I think we gave them a break where we could, and I think they've all survived.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Oh,
Just a
sorry,
real quick one,
Counselor
sorry.
Gunston.
I just noticed the backyard hen licensing, we've dropped the fee from 75 to 50. Is there a reason? Like, not that it's a huge item, I don't imagine, but.
So they have not caused the issues that we had anticipated in terms of maintenance and that for them. So in discussion with Cam, and Cam looked at adjacent municipalities, it was felt that instead of potentially driving some underground, let's just relax the rules, because after the annual inspection, yeah, really, we've had 0 complaints whatsoever. So we thought it would be fair to reduce it.
I just noticed I was the only one we reduced, so that's why I was wondering. Thank you.
Not a
Anyone
piece.
else? Okay, seeing none, I will read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Gunston and seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council of the Town of Minto receives report Finance 2022-028 regarding 2023 rates and fees, that the user fee changes proposed for 2023 in Appendix 1 to this report be approved, and the Council of the Town of Minto considers passage of the related bylaw in open session. Going to call the question, that's what I was going to say. Getting ahead of myself. All in favor? Thank you, that carries. And the second report, Gordon?
Yeah, so we have final tile drainage loan of the year. So despite all the economic and legislative changes we've seen, no changes to the tile drain rules so far. And I know we made frequent comments 2 to 3 years ago, but wow, 6% is a high interest rate. But now, 6%, it's not so bad. So anyway, the ceiling is still 50,000. And as Terry remarked in his earlier thing, costs have gone up, but this is stayed at 50,000 for the gross maximum loan amount. This particular application is only coming in at 22,600, so well below the limit. So again, especially for the newer councillors, this is one that the municipality is just a flow through. So we are contingently liable, but in all our time. We've never seen that actually have to be called upon, so. And I think this is a pretty secure applicant too. so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, a lot of farmers take advantage of this, even at the rate that it has been.
True.
But it seems to take it's a pretty big shove, I think, to get the interest rates changed.
I think so.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution moved by Councillor Elliott and seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto receives Finance 2022-29 report regarding a tile drainage loan and considers the tile drainage rating bylaw 2022-113 during open session. Calling the question, all in favor? Thank you, that carries.
Thank you.
Pass the chair back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. So we're into announcements. And if we want, we can start with you and we'll just go right around. Councillor Elliott.
Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Happy New Year. You take my announcement. I don't. There's more to come.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on what Matt said. So free shinny and free public skating over the holidays, so get your kids out on the ice and get it used up. Check the website for the times and days.
Thank you. I'd just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas as well. I think we did some of that on at the staff party, which we had a great time. And again, Quinn and your committee for putting that on. It was a great couple of minutes that we spent together. To everyone that's had anything to do with all the activity that's been going on in our 4 centers, the parades, everything. It's been great. It's been lovely, and it certainly, we as councilors appreciate the hard work that the staff puts up every year for that stuff, and a lot of great comments. I mean, it's been pretty exciting. I don't know what you guys are going to do in January. I do know what you're going to do in January. We're working on a budget. So thank you, and I never welcomed you, Councillor Anderson, to our meeting, and I apologize for that. So again, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope everybody gets some downtime.
So our Christmas will be to the community on the 25th, and the hall in Minto here is open in Harrison, sorry, part of Minto. Open for lunch at 1 o'clock, pickups, deliveries, and if you're hearing from somebody that I didn't get back to them, tell them to call me again, because my phone has been going crazy and I've been working every day, so I can't get the messages all the time. Anyway, let people know if they have nowhere to be and they have nothing to eat or no turkey dinner, we'd be glad to provide it. With homemade pies provided by the community. I put out a plea and the community stepped up like amazing. So we have like 60 homemade pies coming. So about that, everybody just kept donating and donating. And okay, we're good. You can do stuffing instead. So it's been great, as always. The community has reached out, but I'm always afraid we're going to miss somebody. So if anybody knows of anybody or has family that knows of somebody's going to be sitting at home and they say, oh, I didn't know anything about it. I don't know how else we can let people know about it. We're there. We got lots of volunteers coming to prep veggies on the 25th or 24th. It's going to be good.
Well, I just want to say a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And as a new counselor, I certainly am impressed with the work that town staff puts in. We certainly wouldn't be able to do our jobs if you people weren't doing your staff. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, as an old counselor, I would also like to say that I'm always impressed with our staff as well. They certainly continue to amaze. So thank you for that and keep up the good work. And I'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a very blessed 2023.
Thank you. So we're moving right along here. It is 8:44, sorry, go ahead.
I was just waiting to see if any councilors brought it up, but just a reminder to everybody,
on behalf of Blenheim Fire and Ice is coming up on New Year's Eve. So we get through Christmas and you got your bellies full of turkey and pies. Then you can come out. You can come out and celebrate New Year's Eve again. We draw hundreds and hundreds of people out to that event, and hopefully council can come and greet the public and have a great night that night. So cross your fingers for no rain.
Are we still looking for volunteers?
We're always looking for more volunteers.
Okay.
Good answer.
So is there anything else that, that we missed that you guys want to add? Okay. All right, we're going to move back into regular council. Motion by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the committee of the whole convenes in regular council. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. And any notices of motion? Okay, so moved by Councillor Hotnovitz, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the council of the town of Minto ratifies the motions made in committee of whole. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. Bylaws. Okay, so we've got a bunch of bylaws that we're going to pass. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that bylaw numbers 2022-109, 2022-110, 2022-111, 2022-112, and 2022-113 be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thank you. The confirmatory bylaw, motion moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor Dirksen, that bylaw 2022-114 to confirm actions of the Council of Corporation of the Town of Minto respecting a meeting held December 20th be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Adjournment, so Siobhan, Jason, building, fire and ice, and all these other things, good stuff that's happening in Minto. You guys sat there and listened and watched.
No.
You look like you're really interested. So thank you for staying, you guys. We appreciate it.
Ron needs to sign that.
The adjournment, and then we're going to sing. So moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Elliott, the Council of Town of Minto adjourned to meet again to call together. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much for a good meeting. We covered a lot this evening. So we are going to sing.
It's not on camera, we're good.
It is still on camera, yes,
Oh.
it is. Like karaoke.
That means you have to leave, Ron.
So we're going to sing We Wish You a Merry Christmas. Just the first verse. And I'm not sure who's the director here.
You're in charge.
On three. One,
We gotta
two,
pick a
three.
note and start
Oh, sorry.
together. Goodness.
Do you want to do that?
Let Judy.
Judy.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.